So,
Not to make this awkward at all.
Well,
Yeah,
what, is it
no.
like an icebreaker? So we have like
yeah, so this is the icebreaker.
name, favorite hobby.
No,
Oh.
not corporate
This is
icebreakers.
not, yeah, it's not a corporate.
No,
Name, favorite hobby. What
No,
did
yeah,
you do
let's
last
go.
summer?
What's your name? What's your favorite hobby? Tell me something cool about you.
This is very unsettling. I don't like seeing you like this.
Let's put a pin in this and circle back later, please.
Yeah.
Let's table it for now.
Yeah.
Let's table
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So go first.
Sure.
What's your name?
My name is Aneesa. What's the next question?
Where are you from?
I'm from. Wow, that's a loaded question to ask any brown person, right?
See.
Born in India, raised in the U.S., moved to Canada 3-ish years ago, just a little over 3 years ago.
Okay.
I was thinking just St. Catherine's.
How about
just?
How about you let me speak for
No,
myself?
you're good. Yeah.
I get to interpret what it means where you're from. Do you know how long I've struggled with this? My entire life when people, you know this.
Yeah.
Where are you really from, they ask.
Yeah.
And they go, where are your parents from?
Yeah. Savvy, I live in Chicago right now, and I grew up in Iowa, so in the U.S.
Plain and simple.
Plain and simple. How long have you guys known each other?
Oh.
Five,
Since
6?
2019.
6 years.
Yep.
Okay. I think it's also would be beneficial to let people know how long we've known each other.
Yeah. So fun story. Savvy met Roham for the second time today. Okay, relax. I met Roham over the summer when he held the Can't Social event in that backyard, and it was dreamy and magical and a really, really great, wholesome experience. Lots of wonderful artists, great opportunity to build community. 10 out of 10 would recommend, will be there, bring lots of people. That's how I know Roham.
But this is also technically the third time y'all have met.
Yeah,
Yeah, technically.
technically. Yep. All right. How do you know Roham?
Through this one. But we're pretty much the same person, we found out. So
Yeah.
I appreciate this conversation.
Absolutely.
It's great.
Sure.
Totally.
Okay.
All right.
To her dismay.
Which is always fun.
100%.
Then I just take nice deep breaths through it and just, it's going to be over soon. That's all.
You need to relax.
Yep.
But yeah, so I can get straight to it.
Yep.
First question, are you a feminist? Either of you can answer.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And what does being a feminist mean to you?
To me, it just means treating everyone as they're valuable human beings,
Okay.
no matter the gender.
Mm-hmm.
And Aneesa?
That plus understanding what everyone goes through and the restrictions or disadvantages that they're faced with,
Mm-hmm.
and to understand that providing support will look different for different groups of people. And that's not where you go into, well, equal for you, equal for you, equal for you. It's more about that equity piece
Mm-hmm.
and more about really meeting people where they're at so we can empower and uplift everybody. So rights, basic human dignity, decency, but then also that empowerment because we're all at different levels depending on our circumstances.
Okay. And do you think as a woman, it means a lot more to be a feminist for you?
I don't know about more,
Mm-hmm.
but it's more so. I don't know about more, but it's more so. No, I don't know about more, but it definitely feels more personal
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a woman, because it's this, movement to create that equity, that equality, in opportunity and safety and, all the factors we're going to discuss today. So yeah, it feels more personal, but it also doesn't feel like it could be more meaningful to me as compared to a man, but it depends on the man who speaks to what feminism is to him and the effects of patriarchy. So men can be just as impacted with the drawbacks of patriarchy. So I'm not one to say the fight is more for one than the other.
Right. And for Savvy, I was gonna ask, do you think it's very important to be a feminist as a man in the current scenario that we're in?
I mean, I think that'd be a pretty bad response. Be like, nah. But yeah, for 100%. I
Yeah.
think that, especially because of the misunderstandings of what feminism actually means, I think it's very important for men to be able to own that term
Mm-hmm.
as well for themselves, to be able to actually speak to it and have conversations about it. Whether or not those conversations also include women, but also amongst men, just to
Mm-hmm.
be able to kind of make sure that we're keeping top of mind what's important when it comes to building relationships, whether platonic or romantic, all of these within the world, keeping in mind what the experiences are, lived experiences are for everyone and how they are different based on gender and based on how we are treated in society
Mm-hmm.
as individuals.
Okay, cool. And there's a lot of places, I mean, obviously, like patriarchy and feminism, they play a role. And one of the things is like within relationships, which we talk about probably the most because um, that's where differences and similarities and societal, cultural norms and all of the things that are ingrained within us that we may not have full control of come out in those interpersonal connections. So I guess one of the things that I really wanted to talk about is finances within the relationships.
Mhm.
So I wanted to like get an understanding of like where we kind of stand on that and then build on that conversation and see where if we differ, if we have different opinions, and like what the most equitable approach probably is into navigating finances within relationships. So we start off from first dates. Okay.
Mhm.
One of the conversations that comes up the most is paying on the first date. So first, Anissa, like
Yeah.
who do you think should be paying on the first date?
I think it's different for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and they can have that conversation. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's really important to be open about these topics and conversations when you get started on dating with somebody. I can speak for myself. So for me personally, if I'm going on a first date, I'm fully going in with the intention of, at minimum, paying for myself.
Okay.
It doesn't matter who asked who out.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I at least want to be able to pay for myself. That's a given. If I'm at the first date and I'm having a great time and it's wonderful, I will always reach for the check to
Mm-hmm.
pay for both.
Okay.
And if the person on the other side, the gentleman, insists, right, I'll still push, but if he insists more, I'll oblige. But I will ensure that if there's a second date, that I either pay for that one or that I bring a small gift for him.
Mm-hmm.
Something thoughtful, something meaningful, and not really focused on, oh, expensive, because the thing in women's minds a lot of the times is we feel indebted,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if a man spends money on us or if a man does us a favor or does something for us, whether he makes us feel that way or not, the way that we're conditioned, we our first instinct is to feel like we owe them.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, a lot of us have this experience that when men go out on dates with us, depending on who the guy is, some men will use that as an opportunity of, I paid for you, so now I'm owed something. I'm
Mm-hmm.
owed a first kiss. I'm owed coming up to your place for coffee. I'm owed sex on the first night, whatever it is, right? So we tend to stay away from that. If I did not have a good time, no matter how much the person insists, I absolutely 100% pay for myself
Mm-hmm.
and take off.
Okay. Savvy?
Dang, that's very unique take on it based on just like my experience dating as well. I think there's so many branches of like what could potentially happen
Mm-hmm.
and where things could
Absolutely.
go. I'm going to preface this by saying that like I think this also deals with um, our own individual take and experiences with money. I
Mm-hmm.
think that I have not always had the healthiest relationship with money,
Mm.
and so my mindset has evolved and changed over the years, and there are things that I struggle with still. There have been times in my past that I will say I acted out of a place where I wasn't my best self. But overall, I think my take is that I will pay on the first date. There's a conversation to be had about like who asks who out, right? Like, but I think overall, if I'm still saying yes as a gentleman, I would still want to pay on the first date. Now, the thing is, if I go to pay on the first date, I also gauge if she at least fakes reaching for her purse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think there's a little bit of like, do you expect this? Do you always like, what is your mentality around it? And I think that's like one of the things that I potentially gauge just for myself is just like, does she at least even reach or offer or do something along those lines? And is there an appreciation behind it if I do pay, kind of thing, right? That's
Mhm.
just like me. I will insist on paying. There have been circumstances where the woman has reached, I insist, and they also push back and they insist. And based on, you just don't know what experiences are for women, right? So if I get pushback, then there's one of two things. One, she wants to pay for herself because of any one of many reasons. Or two, she actually, like, one is she wants to pay because she's potentially not having a good time, right? And I have to gauge that. Hopefully I've gauged that during the date. Or two, she wants to be able to hold her own as an independent woman.
Mhm.
And so there was a person I got into a relationship with our first date. She insisted on paying for herself, and so we split the bill. And for me, I was just like, ooh, I don't know how that went, or like, I don't know if she's into it. And it turns out that she actually bragged to her friends about the fact that I let her pay on the first date, having that be something that she was looking for in a partner. And I was like, that's unique. And so, like, there's no right or wrong answer because everyone is so unique in this. But for myself, like, I will insist, if I get pushback, then I'll let the lady pay or split the bill. Not let her pay, but split the bill. And that's usually my take on it.
I guess I can build on it from with my take and the conversations I've had. So I posted a story asking basically who should be paying on the first date, and I got loads of mix of different answers, right? And a lot on different parts of the aisle actually made sense. So I really wanted to understand different perspectives on this. So I wanted to put a bunch of these things out and then, like basically us discussing them. For me personally, I think it comes from a lot from my South Asian culture of hospitality and courtesy. It's just something that we've always been taught that if you like how we treat guests, when we go out, you're supposed to take care of the guests. Every time I host, that's the same way I feel when I take somebody out or like somebody's taking me out, is because like we're going into like a space where there's courtesy involved, because like we're probably meeting each other for the first time. So there's a lot of nuances of like just treating them as a guest, and you do things for the guests. You always pay for the guests. You always cook for the guests if they're coming over, right? So these are the ways we make the other person feel comfortable. So that comes naturally to me from, I think, a cultural root. However, when it comes to dating, again, same. Like, it doesn't matter to me who asks who out. I will always want to pay. Like, I will always pay. But I do agree with a bit of what Savvy said. Like, in terms of gauging and understanding the mentality of the other person, it could be because of past experiences, it could be because of a lot of things. But I will notice these little things, or like I will try to see if the other person offers, right? I will never let them pay because for me, it's being nice, right? It's not about a male female gender role. It's about being nice. I just always want to pay. That's the same way I behave with my friends. The same way I behave with my parents. I feel like I'm financially independent now, so there's no reason for me to go out with somebody and not want to pay. And to the point where I will insist on paying every time, right? And that could be the third, fourth, fifth date. It doesn't matter. I will always insist on paying until we're in a relationship where we've had that conversation. But on the first date and initial dates, I will always try to notice if the other person offers, and even within the first couple of dates, because for me, that speaks to a couple of things of like the kind of partner that I look for is like, are they independent? But like, I want to know of how they feel about themselves, because how you carry yourself really shows up in terms of your offers of like, would you want to pay for yourself? Because like how Aneesa said, like, you would always at least want to pay for yourself. The idea that you don't want to owe anybody anything, that speaks a lot into how somebody views themselves. And, that sort of idea really speaks a lot to me. And like that I admire and appreciate. So that's something that I'm looking for. So I will want to take that from that conversation. That being said, now we go to the things that I was told in the poll. A lot of the things that I heard, which I believe are valid, is because in general, dating is much riskier for women than men. right?
Yeah.
Considering how prone they are to sexual assaults, how prone they are to dating, going on a date with a misogynist, right? So it's much riskier for women. They're taking on more of a risk. They're usually putting in more of an effort. Um, they have to dress up, get ready, makeup, and a lot of things. And those are things that, men obviously can do, but it's not a norm usually for men to put in that much effort just because of how men are. Overall, there's a lot more at stake and a lot more that goes into going on that date for women. So, which is why a lot of women in general have mentioned that, for that reason, they do expect the men to pay. That doesn't negate the fact that they don't offer, but they would still expect them to actually insist on paying and actually end up paying. So that's one. The other end of it is the 50-50 debate, where men essentially speak on the fact that if it truly is equality, then it should always be 50-50. That's a loaded conversation, but that is something I feel like we should definitely talk about.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot to unpack there, where that comes from, why men feel that way. But yeah, I feel like my take on that is that I recognize the first point. I think that's valid. I think it is okay and 100% in the power of women to feel that way, because it is 100% factually riskier for women to date. So based off of that, I do agree with that. That doesn't negate the fact that I still expect just a slight movement of your purse,
Yeah.
because that gives me the signal that I'm looking for in terms of like the kind of person I'm looking for. And this all started, sorry, a bit of context. This conversation started from a content creator posting a reel where she says that uh, reaching for the bill or paying for the date signals security to women, because like women are expected to, after marriage or within the relationship, expected to take a chunk of the household burden. In South Asian culture, this is for South Asian conversation. In the South Asian culture, they're expected to take care of, like, move into the boy's home, take care of their parents, take care of the household, cook, clean, take care of the baby, and basically all the other unpaid labor that goes with the mothers in South Asian cultures. So if you're expected to do all of that, the least men can do is pay for stuff. And that, I think, is an okay argument, but there is a lot of ingrained patriarchal norms underneath all of that, because I feel like with that notion, women are giving into a little bit of the societal expectation
Of like bartering.
Of women, because you're kind of accepting the fact that this is what it is, right? Which it shouldn't be, right? So there should be pushback. But anyways, so the conversation for now is how it's riskier for women to date in general. So it may be valid for the man to pay for the date. Two is the 50-50 debate. And third is post-relationship burden, which may justify paying, not just for dates, but in general.
I can start off talking about the first part,
Okay.
which is women incurring more expenses and more risks when it comes to dating. So yes, definitely the things that you mentioned, right? Just in us getting ready for a date, the pink tax, right? We're, waxing, laser, hair removal of any kind, beauty treatments, nails, hair, our clothing. Men can go into a department store and go, this is my, like, I've gone shopping with my father, without my father, and I'll be like, this is my father's shirt size. It's got the 15 and a half slim fit. Done. That thing's gonna fit him every single time. But with women, it is completely different. Our mediums are not created equal anywhere, right? So and it's on purpose, obviously, right? The whole no pockets debate to, create the market for purses and stuff, right? So our clothes are not created equal. They're of lower quality. Like men's clothes, there is a reason women are like, if I can pull it off, I want to wear men's clothing, right? So our clothing quality is trash no matter how much money we pay in comparison to men. So we're often buying more clothing, and it's that's the other thing, the pink tax, all of that. Even going to and from the date, depending on the time of day and the area that you're in, in comparison, a guy can generally take public transit or a shared Uber or Lyft and not relatively have to worry about, oh my God, am I going to be safe? Women have to take that private Uber, right? So, or drive their own car, right? So there's that related to it. And then we're dating our natural predator at the end of the day, right? I am risking my life. Like the things that you see online, right? Where it's like, oh my God, girl, I'm going on a first date. Here's his profile in case he murders me, right? And our
Right.
friends are like, oh my God, have a great time. I have saved everything. And then sharing your location with them. I once went on a date where it was just supposed to be a, hey, I'm passing through your area. Would you like to have some coffee? I was coming back from a conference. And the gentleman said, yes, absolutely, let's go. The wonderful gentleman arrives with flowers and he takes me to a restaurant to eat. He's like, you probably, you told me you haven't had food at the conference. It got too busy. Let's go to have dinner. And then he took me to a spot for dessert. And then we went on a beautiful little drive through Christmas lights. Meanwhile, my friend is losing her mind. Her and her husband are following my location. Like, are you okay? But they're like, you're generally stopping at safe spaces and public spaces, so we think you're okay. And my phone was on silent because I don't like to look at my phone when I'm on a date. And I was like, I turned my phone around to so many notifications and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm perfectly safe. I promise I'm fine. It's like this mental load, this anxiety that we go through. And so speaking to what you were saying, I have had men who pick up on that and they understand that, even if I haven't explicitly mentioned it. And I really have a lot of admiration for their ability to be like, no, I need to be more mindful of this. These are not things that I have to deal with or that I have to worry about, but she does. So I have had gentlemen who will say, who would take me on a date and say, and I'll insist on paying. And I'll say, look, I had a really good time. I really want to pay. Or you paid for the last one. Allow me, right? And the most they'll agree to is like letting me pay for like ice cream afterwards. And they're like, that's it. And they're like, look, and I think the key is communication. One, yes, like both of you mentioned, picking up on those cues, right? Like, is she having a good time? And for some women, it, like you said, it turned out, it was so surprising for you when the woman was bragging and being like, no, he let me pay for myself, right? You never know. You never know if she's going to be like, good on him. He didn't insist. Versus someone else being like, I insisted and he let me. Yeah. Right? So it's hard to gauge. But what I appreciated in that gentleman was that he said, you know what? He communicated with me. And he said, look, I understand that you want to pay and why you're insisting. And I have so much respect for that. But please allow me because. And then he mentioned all these things. He's like, you have put in so much effort into getting ready for this date. You look incredible. Clearly, all of this takes time and money, right? And you gave me your time. You came out. You didn't have to. You are at peace in your life. You're not even looking to date. You came out, you gave me your time. It's a risk. This is a terrible world that we live in. So for you to come out and trust me, for a couple hours for a dinner and to give me your time and have conversation with me, that means a lot to me. I don't have to be scared on this date like you do. And I recognize that. Yeah. Not at no given point have I been like, she might hurt me. I mean, if it was you two, yeah, it would hurt you both because you're irritating as hell. But, okay, wipe that smirk off your face. There's no reason for this. Anyway, focus. But yeah, so I think that communication and hearing that from him, that it's not coming from the I am man, I protect. It's coming from, I recognize what you're having to go through. And I have so much respect for you wanting to pay for me, even wanting to pay for yourself. But allow me, because my God, you have so much else to deal with just to try to be in a relationship with me. This shouldn't be one of your concerns. Right. And I appreciated the hell out of that. And that piece ties right into, and we don't have to go into the whole 50-50 thing right now, but that piece of when women think of 50-50, of splitting things with their partner, they're looking at it most of the time from the perspective of, one, I get to support my partner equally, and we both get to build this empire together. And if we're transparent and we are smart about our finances and we come to decisions together, this could be so cool and we could lead a good life, right? Women come into 50-50 with that mindset. The problem where I have personally felt, and people, women in my circle have shared with me, the problem is when men come to that 50-50 argument, they're not looking to, how can always, oh, how can I build with this person? They're looking for, where can I cut? What is the bare minimum at that 50-50 level that I can do, where I can be like, I did 50-50. I did 50-50, right? For women, it's always going to be that spirit of generosity. We are taught to be givers. We are taught to be nurturers. We are taught to look out for the community, which is why when women are financially independent and empowered and are actually doing well, we give back to the community in comparison to men more often. We invest right back into the community. But on the flip side, I have had someone spend incredible amounts of money on something they organized for me to show off to people. But when it came to actual emotional availability, emotional security, and having that presence in a relationship and respect and dignity, that wasn't there. So when women say, I don't care how much money you do or don't spend on me, what I care about is how you treat me and how I feel around you. Secure men will look at that and go, yes, that's important. I see why that's important to her, and I'm going to do my best to meet her where she needs me to be. But then there's those other men who go, oh, that's all I got to do? That's all I got to do? All right, I'll treat you nice. I'll make you laugh. I'll hold you when you cry. I'll do all of these things. But then when it comes to spending, there's that, they're misers. Like, what's the word? Kanjus, right? Where it's like, women are like, oh, if I have something and I want to shower my person with love, we go all out. We'll cook for you. We'll remember your favorite things. We'll buy you expensive tickets to your favorite sports games, whatever. Even if we don't understand your obsession, we will make something happen to where it's like, oh, I just want to see that little guy inside of him smile and just be like, oh, feel so loved and so taken care of. And I just want to see joy on his face, right? But whereas in the same breath, with men, if we don't see that generosity of spirit, that's where that comes in. And a lot of men will look at that and go, okay, you're a gold digger. Bro, what gold? What gold? Because in this moment, you ain't got no gold. All right, I'm going to need you to take a nice deep breath. What gold? And even if you do earn more money than me, I don't want your money. I don't want your money. The problem happens is women will have this much, and even that they're willing to share with everyone. Yeah. And they'll go, you know what? We'll make it work. It'll be fine. We'll make it work. And I don't want anyone's face to fall. If I can help it, I'll do what I can. The men who are on the other side of that spectrum, who don't have that spirit of, generosity and that spirit of coming together as a community and being there for each other, they will have this much and they will hide all of this and they will use all of this. And then they'll make you feel it. It's that part where you're made to feel it. Like, oh, I spent this money on you.
They'll hold it over your head.
The holding it over our heads. And that, again, plays into the thing that I talked about earlier. Women feeling like they owe someone something because they do something for them is so ingrained in us that financial independence is necessary for survival in the world, yes, but also survival of our spirit, right? It is so important for us because I have had that. I have had a partner. Look, we had birthdays that were very close together. And so we would always exchange gifts around our birthdays. And I would always get them something meaningful. Like I knew family meant a lot to him. So for a partner, one time I saw this really beautiful metal tree that had little frames hanging off of it. So I went and I took all of his family photos and I cut off like all of his family members that he's really close to. And I put their photos in there. And then that was my birthday gift to him, along with favorite chocolate, snacks, all of that, made a whole basket. He went and bought a $200 dress for me, which I, showed a lot of appreciation for, went and bought it with his mom, did not even consider whether I would like it or not. So there was no thoughtfulness in it. It was just the money and left the tag on. And then the next day I get a phone call saying, where did you buy this tree? I was like, what do you mean? It's like, where'd you buy it? I was like, Belk. And he goes, oh, I was like, what's going on? And he's like, my mom saw it at Walmart for $20. I said, okay, well, I bought it at Belk for $80. I can send you a photo of the receipt if you would like. Why is this important? I was 16 and I had more brains than this. And he was like, well, it's just, I got you such an expensive brand name dress. And like, all I got was this and like a basket. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how to compare things here. What do you mean? Right. And so like it started off so young, right? But he must not always have been like this. His upbringing, his conditioning, right? The South Asian household, like in our South Asian culture, yes, we have that spirit of generosity and how we take care of our guests, also called mehman nawazi, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have that, and it's a beautiful part about our culture. But then the other part about our culture is so toxic, where we're constantly comparing who gave who what, where we're writing down after a wedding who gave how much money to the bride and groom so we can make sure that we give it back to them. It's called vehvar. It's called in Gujarati they'll say vaad ke dena hai, or something like that. Like you have to make sure that you make it equal,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that spirit, if you grow up with your family and your community, kind of the people that you grow up around always teaching you that, there's no reason a 17-year-old boy needs to be having these conversations. We're both children, bro, right? This is the innocence of a first relationship. Where are these conversations coming from? But that young, that stuck in my head. And then for years into that relationship, anytime I wanted to buy something thoughtful and meaningful for that person, I would still do it because it's who I am. But then I would have to think of buying something super expensive to complement that. Because what happened at the age of 16, I didn't want to hear those words again.
Mm-hmm.
And it messed with me so much until date. When someone gives me a gift or someone gives me something, my first instinct after showing appreciation is to be like, what can I get for them? Because that conditioning of I owe them,
Yeah.
right? I just talked a lot, but
What was the original question?
So she spoke
The-
on the 50-50
Yeah.
debate.
but before that,
There's a couple of other things how it's like
The
you
thing-
did touch on the 50-50,
Mhm.
but the original question,
the risk and all of that.
the risk,
Yeah.
the 50-50, or like because the post relationship burdens that women have to take. So pre-dating, post-dating, and the 50-50.
Yeah.
These are the three things that we're kind of touching on.
I will say the conversation around the pink tax and the risk and all of that stuff did not occur to me until later in my dating journey,
Mhm.
which after I found out or after I realized, I was like, it's not revolutionary. I'm just like, oh, that makes sense. It changed the way that I approach dating for sure. And I think it's also important to keep in mind that like me dating someone is not just the experience of between us. It's the experience of dating in the past that has now like formed her viewpoint of what dating is. So it's not even personal for me, right? It's not like she's afraid of me. She's just, that's just the way it is in the world, right? And so not taking it personally, realizing what the risks are, realizing the inequalities there. So I will say, yes, I agree. And I think that's part of why I like to always end up paying. I don't believe in 50-50. There are conversations around one, men's salaries tend to be higher than women's salaries, right?
Mhm.
So, like, in general, just given that in itself,
Mhm.
should never be 50-50. Given the pink tax and all of that stuff, also not 50-50. And I don't think putting a percentage on it is healthy in the first place. I don't think that it should be like, oh, 70-30, whatever, 75-25. Like, I think just that mindset ends up having that tit for tat mindset, regardless of percentage, is just not healthy in a relationship. What I consider is I want to do something for someone, whether that's something that I have planned, whether it's spontaneous and that just so happens. Like, I want to pay because I want to treat someone, I want to take care of someone, and I care about someone. Now, obviously, that's later in the relationship. It's not like when you're first dating, it's always hard to be able to juggle what someone's mentality around money is and how they perceive the way that it's going. But I think the number one thing is to communicate. That's huge that guy was able to just say that on the first date. I'm like, I'm taking notes.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
This person was not a young person. This person was not like someone in their 20s. They were
Yeah.
much wiser, and they had the experiences and spoken to the women that they dated in the past
Yeah.
to understand all of this. And they explained that to me. Same thing. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't consider all of this, But then after having these conversations and having these experiences, I now totally get, and it's like, no, you're not. You're not going to worry about it.
I think the understanding is key, but also like it's not something that I would have even thought to like express out
Mm,
loud, right?
Mhm.
Like,
yeah,
oh, let me do this, and then sit there and be like, this is why I'm going to do it, you know, and then
yeah,
explain to them exactly. And I'm like, that's actually brilliant. Like that's just communication in any form. Just honest communication is amazing.
yeah.
So all to say that like I don't think 50-50 should ever potentially be a thing. That being said, I also like feeling cared for
Mm,
and taken care of, right? So there are going to be times that like I will let the woman pay based on the fact that she came up with the date and she wants to take care of me. And I think those moments are also special because we're not going to compare price tags here,
mm,
right? You're going like you want to take care of me and that's something that you've expressed and this is what you're going to do and plan it, whatever, whatever, whatever. Or even if it's spontaneous and you say, "Hey, I got this. Like I want to take care of you today," you know, great, like.
mm,
And I think it's not about, it's again not about percentages, it's about just the fact that like I also like to feel desired, cared for, taken care of every so often.
mm-hmm,
And so from that perspective, in a healthy relationship, I think it's good to go both ways, and I think it allows men to also just release that toxic masculinity that we have pent up, where it's just like I have to pay, I have to be the provider, I have to do these things based on settled gender roles that we've like made up for ourselves. But
Mhm.
like be the little spoon, every
Yeah.
so often, just like chill,
yeah,
and like feel that love and care
yeah.
back. So yeah,
I feel like statistically, Little Spoon is more comfortable. Or, I mean,
facts.
10
yeah,
out of 10 would recommend.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I will touch on, like, I agree with basically both of you in terms of the ideas you have on this topic. But I will kind of build on what Anissa said, like the idea of building an empire together.
Mm, mm,
I think that's how I approach dating. That's how I sincerely see any relationship that I get into, as a partnership, as a collaboration, as like we're building this thing together. Like an institution. It doesn't have to be marriage. I'm just saying like you're building something together. What we call it in Bangla is shongshar. I don't know if like it's sansar
oh,
or,
yeah.
but like
Mm.
that sansar means society
Yeah,
and
sansar means society, world also is another
right.
meaning for
But
it.
that's
Yeah.
not, so for us like shongshar is what you manage in a marriage. Like
Mm,
so you call it the marriage, but everything that the marriage entails within the household. So
mm,
basically the household,
mm,
but like it's like a theoretical household that you're
mm-hmm,
building
mm-hmm,
together, right? So that's what I feel like we're building with a relationship. So every time I'm getting into a relationship with someone, I'm building this relationship I treat as an institution or like something tangible that I'm building.
mm-hmm,
So therefore I go into it as in like we're both putting in equal amounts of effort, and that effort can be in terms of finances, in terms of like actual activity, or like whatever it is that we're trying to build. I feel like that's the approach for me. Like we're building this together, which is why like at some point, like for me, that's, it's not 50-50 in terms of like straight finances,
mm,
but the idea of equality
mm,
within that space, I feel is very important to me. And I try to gauge that early on because I mean, let's not waste each other's time if we're not, meant to go into this together, right? And I think one of the things that, like, in terms of dating, also comes to me like I would date to marry, in a sense. I'm not like going on dates just to date. Even if I did, I would still carry these principles with me. But even then, I think what's important for me is to communicate that okay, this is why I'm on this date.
mm,
Early on, it really doesn't matter to me in terms of like, oh, that's too much information, or like, because I feel like that's my mentality, and I think that should be communicated honestly and straightforwardly. So I would communicate that on the first date, like this is where I'm going with this. This is why I'm here, and I feel like that's something that there have been times where I've mentioned why I want to pay,
Mm.
but there have been other times where I simply just want to pay because I came up with the idea and like I just want to be hospitable. But I do think like communicating it openly is a great idea. But I also communicate a lot of these things within the first date or the first couple of dates that this is my view on relationships and this is where how I treat it. So therefore, these are the reasons I'm doing what I'm doing. Right? That helps build rapport and also create certain expectations and like make sure that they understand where I'm going with this and not waste anybody's time. That being said, I also communicate the fact that in terms of my ideals of a relationship, you're not taking care of my parents or like that's not your responsibility. Childbirth is both of our responsibilities. All of these things that comes early on in the relationship conversations or like the dating conversations. So I feel like that builds a little bit of rapport to justify why it is that I either am paying for the dates or would want equal amounts of effort put in to the relationship. And again, I say effort because it's not just finances. But I've been in relationships where I have paid for basically everything and that was expected of me in a sense, even though it wasn't said out loud. I've also been in relationships where we have split every single thing 50-50. And that was also, that name never came up as a conversation or a topic to discuss where like, oh, finances in terms of like, why are we doing it like this? It just naturally became a thing. That was one of the first times where I realized that this is what I want. That just naturally went into just being that way where like, yeah, this feels right. And that was the only relationship where like finances were never a topic of conversation or like a topic of disagreement. It was always very clear. And I think that held the relationship together and stronger a lot better than any other relationship spaces that I've been in. And I feel like that is why, like from that experience, I recognize that this is probably what I'm striving for.
So that's actually very unique because I feel like talking about finances, especially in a relationship, is healthy and important. So I've never heard a relationship where that was not done, but it was a natural kind of progression into something healthy
Right.
regardless.
Yeah.
So that's unique, actually.
Yeah, because I feel like that kind of happened because we were both very young. And so we've never really experienced like sharing finances or living together or like taking care of things together. The institution of relationship or like shongshar, as I said. I had neither of us had ever been in one. So we were both navigating these things. So like the communication aspect came a lot after where we'd already done this. And then we were like, hey, this seems to be working really good. Like we should do this.
So you did have conversations, like
Yeah,
eventually you had
afterwards.
conversations.
Yeah, but
Okay,
I
got it.
think it was never something that we had built on. Like
Sure.
the way I would build on it now, where because I feel like um, this is something that comes up in conversation now. I think that was because it was such a young relationship where we were both navigating a lot of these spaces. We were both, I would say, inexperienced and like just didn't know enough. But I think the progression into that space was because of the cultural upbringing that we had, where like we were both taught to be independent in the sense that I was taught to take care of everybody around me. And I feel like that's how I behave with friends, family, everyone. Like I just simply, it doesn't matter how much I have, I'm always giving. And I think that's something that's been instilled in me by my parents, where I've seen them struggle with their finances, but still like always be hospitable to everybody. And I think that I carry that within how I create spaces in my life as well right now. Like in terms of my house, like everyone's always welcome to stay here. It doesn't matter how long you're like here or like if you're passing through Toronto or whatever. It doesn't matter how well I know you. Like my house is always open for everyone to stay over, come over, eat. So that's just the kind of space that I like to create. And I think that extends within the relationship when I have one, is because like I want them to feel a part of this and we're like in this together, right? So and I think when the other person feels the same way, it naturally builds into something that's very cohesive and there's equal contribution, right? So and at the same time I also make sure to let them know that going forward, if we're in this long in long term, you're not going to have to take the societally expected burdens that people expect you to, like, of the South Asian cultures. And I think those conversations are really important. Maybe obviously, like, the example that I'm giving is of a very young relationship where I probably wasn't as aware, because at the end of the day, like, I feel like I wasn't my ideal self in that relationship. There were some parts of the relationship that principally that I still carry as ideals that I have learned. I feel like that was one of the relationships where I've learned the most about what I would consider being a man, and that's all only because of me interacting with a woman. And I think that's a crazy thing, that a woman can teach you how to be a man better than anybody else. And I think that speaks volumes about how the social conditioning works. That even when I considered myself like, oh, I'm a feminist, like, I understand equality, even then there were so many ingrained misogynistic traits that came out, not in the sense of like, oh, you're beneath me, but in just very obvious normal interactions within relationships. A lot of complacency, a lot of traits of privilege, a
We have a lot
lot.
of microaggressions that
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and again, sad, but a woman had to teach me how to basically behave. But that's one of the things that I would like to strive for through these conversations, so that women don't have to take that burden, because it's not theirs. To teach men how to be better men, like, that should not be something that women take the burden of teaching.
Yeah, I don't think is their responsibility in the least.
Yeah.
But I will say I will always trust a woman's take on things more than a man. So like, if like we actually recently had a conversation, because I'll be honest, I have tendencies that I'm not proud of, that I have grown up with, and so I know that, like, my feelings around certain things are not healthy, but I have awareness enough to be able to go, well, that's probably not what, like, I should be thinking or feeling, or like there's something there. And so I'll run it by her and we'll have conversations. And I've had to be like, this is going to sound misogynistic, because it probably is.
Yeah.
But like, this is what I'm thinking. And like, I'm trying to figure myself out. And I think those conversations can only be best had with a woman, because they provide a perspective that no man could potentially provide. And we all need the ability to be self-reflective with someone holding a mirror to us and calling us out on our bullshit. Hopefully we can swear.
Yeah, well, fuck yes.
Okay. I was like, what is this podcast rated again?
Nothing is beat.
I expect you to swear.
Got it. Yeah. So I think in that sense, like, there's a balance there where it's like, women, it is not women's responsibility and they should not hold the burden. But I hope that men have a safe space with at least one or two, or how many ever women that are close to them, that they can go to be able to be checked in a healthy way.
Right.
You know?
And so I saw this on Instagram somewhere, but like, it's from a podcast where somebody is asking a African American person that, so there's a conversation where they're asking that, why are you the best person to speak on white privilege?
I remember that.
And they're like, it's because white privilege is something that I am most affected by. I live with the impacts of it every day. So of course I understand it a lot better. A white person is already privileged. They do not recognize it. And that is the whole point. And I feel like we can say the same thing about misogyny and toxic masculinity, is because, like, people within the privileged spectrum, who are the oppressors within society, they would never recognize those issues. And obviously the oppressed or the subjugated group of people would understand it a lot better, because they have had to live with the impacts and experiences of it for every day of their lives, right? So I think that's probably a very important distinction to make whenever we have that conversation.
And then that is balanced by the fact that the only people the most responsible people to hold the oppressors accountable are the oppressors. Like, allies being able to go,
100%.
Men holding men accountable.
Yeah.
This is
absolutely.
you know.
Yeah.
So we may not relate to the experiences of women, but we have the responsibility to make sure that they feel safe
100%.
because we're the problem essentially.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I really strive to work on, is because I haven't had that within my life as well. Like, male to male spaces where I'm able to speak openly about, relationships, being vulnerable, and all of these things. I think that's something that I really want to build, for other people as well, at the very least, to encourage them to have these conversations with other men. Because I don't think male to male spaces exist the same way as female to female spaces
Yeah.
exist, right? Like, there's just bros, there's no girls girl, and I think that should be.
Yeah.
Like,
100%. Our space exists the moment we exist.
exactly.
The moment we're in the presence of another woman, having never met her, immediately safe space. And if there is like mean girl energy,
Yeah.
it's the result of patriarchy,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
So our first instinct is to find a safe space in a woman and to be vulnerable with them.
Yeah, I think one of the pillars of like my podcast should be like, make boys boys. Like,
Yeah.
we should definitely have boys.
I support it.
Yeah,
I support it.
because like,
A bunch of it I think is also in our heads, that we don't approach other men to talk about stuff, but the moment that we do, like, I've had so many surprising conversations where men have opened up in private, like, right, whether it be like a group of just me and one other guy, or a group of us, but as soon as men are together and they get past a certain barrier of like, hey, let's not bullshit anymore and let's actually talk about stuff. I think as soon as one person takes the power to be able to be vulnerable themselves and not obviously call anybody else out, but just say, this is my experience and this is what I'm going through, I think allows other men to be able to also open up about their own, because we've been taught ourselves to not show feelings and be a man and all of these things. We imagine that we've been taught that and we're the only ones that have feelings that we want to express, when in reality we all have those feelings. It's just that we perceive the other person to perceive us as weak, but the other person's also perceiving us to perceive them as weak. If we just happen to talk
it's
about
paradoxical, I guess.
it's very paradoxical. So I feel like we have it within us. It's just that women are just like, and we're like,
you know what it is? You know what it is? It's the Michael Scott meme of like all of them with like the guns at each other. That's what it is.
But
yeah, 100%.
I think one of the other things, like, I can speak to it from my personal experience, is that one of the reasons I'm afraid of being vulnerable with men is because a lot of men have the tendency, because of their ego or insecurity, to quickly invalidate it. Whenever somebody opens up and becomes vulnerable, it's like, because they're uncomfortable, because they don't know how to deal with their own emotional spaces, they're like, ew, that's gay. That's like one of the most obvious things that people say, that like anytime anything related to emotions comes up, or like any level of vulnerability, they will quickly negate it to being the closest male feminine thing that they know, which is being homosexual. Which is insane. that that's a thing, but yeah, it is.
Which is also just like, no, but thank you.
Right?
I know, right?
What an honor.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that earlier, because my whole joke is that you both are soulmates, right?
Yeah.
And so I say that all the time. And all the time. You've met 2 times.
Right.
But I've been saying it since I got to know you, because there's so many similarities between you guys. And so I'll say it. And he's like, I think it was like yesterday or today. And he goes, well, it could also be like a friend thing. Like, we could just be like,
soulmates can be friends.
Yeah,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
And so he's like, it'd just be a friend thing. I was like, I get that, because, again, in my head, same thing, right? Like, when men are, like they're sharing, they're opening up, they're being vulnerable, they're being themselves, they're, like bonding on something, first instinct, gay, right? But I told them, you know what though? Like, in the female space, the meaning is so different. Like, if at one point we are not called lesbians for each other, we're not close enough. Like, what is wrong in my friendship that you don't think that me and my bestie have something going on? because we're constantly hitting on each other. We're constantly gassing each other up.
Yeah.
We are romantic as fuck with each other, right? And it's like, we would literally take each other out on dates, look at each other, have these like beautiful heart-to-heart conversations, but then also laugh, relax, and just feel so good together and just be a little bit in love with each other. And then we'd look at each other and go, a man could never. But then my second sentence always is, men are missing out. My second sentence always is, men are missing out, because
told you that today.
I know, and I'm
like,
saying, men are missing out, and it's like, if they could feel this, whether it's with us or whether it's in their own spaces, it's this type of joy and this type of like, just you radiate, you glow, this love that you feel, and it's so safe. And I just go, men are missing out, man, because I want them to feel this too. But everything you both just spoke about gets in the way of it every single time. And you're right, that space is so important to create for men to be vulnerable with each other, to bond with each other without worrying about these, stereotypes, about men bonding and men being vulnerable.
Top 5 reasons to say fuck patriarchy.
Yeah. You're damn right.
I will say, when I open up to a man, which has not happened very often, because, let's be real, I go in with different expectations than I do when I open up to women, right?
Yeah.
When I open up to a man, it's usually because, one, I have known him long enough that I feel like now this is a safe space. But
Discuss
in that
with strangers.
space, like, I know that, okay, I'm going to now talk about something that could potentially put this person at unease. And in that, I will gauge their reaction. But instead of being put off by it, I know that their reaction is not honest to their actual human what
self.
they're actually human self, best self, whatever. So if they do say, oh, that's gay or whatever else, right, I will never take it personally, and I'll just be like, okay, why do you feel that way? Like, what did I say? And I'll kind of engage them to make them weirdly feel insecure about the toxic masculinity that they just portrayed, and get them to actually reflect on their own shit for a second, to be like, oh, and when they say something out of discomfort and you call them out on it, it makes them so much more uncomfortable. And it's that squeamish you can see. But if you don't do it in a way of attacking them because they're attacking you, if you do it in a way of just like curiosity, at a certain point, hopefully you can get them to kind of soften up a little bit, until the next man walks by, and then they, but like it in a space where it's safe, that you make them feel safe, I feel like you can still poke a little bit more at that bear to like make him calm down.
Yeah, and I think one of the things is like, anytime somebody uses being gay as like a negative connotation, when you own it, they're like, oh, what the fuck? Like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Because like I have a lot of people like comment gay on my like videos. I would just repost it on my story, and I was like crazy. Like, I'm glad you think I'm cool enough to be gay. And
they have the most fun. I want to have the most fun.
There's so many, like, I know toxic masculine men within like different circles where they have used gay as a negative connotation, and I've been like, yeah, I'll take that. Like, I'll do that too. And they're like, they will instantly get uncomfortable. Like, okay, I don't know what to say anymore. Like,
their flabbers are gasted.
Yes. Yeah. So
it's also incredible that we have somehow, we can't think outside labels.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, well, that's not straight, so that must be. I'm like, what? How does that equate to anything? I've literally been asked multiple times in my life, without me actually talking about feelings. People will just see the way that I present and the way that I hold myself, and they'll be like, are you gay? And I'm just like, oh,
I'm flattered.
Yeah, thank you. No, but appreciate it. I mean, I've had some gay guys hit on me that way too, just to like confirm.
Okay, ego.
And I'd be like, oh my god.
Okay, ego boost.
That is like the best compliment ever.
Yeah. I'm like, I need to walk by gay bars more often. Thank you so much. But I think like it's so bizarre that people still think to this day that could be an insult, when in reality it's just like, okay. Imagine just being like, man, that's so straight. Like as soon as they give you any kind of toxic masculinity, you'd be like, man, that is so straight. Ugh. Just like see their reaction to it.
You want to watch the Super Bowl?
Yeah. Ugh. You have two topics of conversation that you talk to everybody about? Sports and women? That's it? Ugh. Damn.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that should be a thing. Like, that should
That's so
definitely-
straight.
Yeah, that is so straight. Like, that is making me uncomfortable.
Flip the
Yeah.
script. I
Yeah.
love that. I
Yeah.
love that. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
But yeah.
I want to go back to something you were sharing earlier about the home, right? And then that spirit of generosity and like wanting to take care of people, and how your home is kind of like home to everyone,
Mhm.
right? And that's just something that you've been brought up with. Somewhere where I would say I have sort of a benefit or a privilege from my upbringing and my childhood.
Mhm.
Generally, when women are the nurturers, the givers, caretakers of the home, that's because it's been imposed on them because they're women. Because you're a woman, we expect you to cook, we expect you to clean, we expect you to take care of people, tend to guests, take care of the home, right? My childhood was very different. My parents never raised us that way. My parents raised us with that spirit of taking care of guests and generosity, like the culture thing,
Mhm.
right? So I am the same way. My home, as he knows, is for everyone, right? Whether I've just met you, never met you, you know someone that I care about, a friend of a friend. You need a place to stay, you come, and I go all out. I make sure I do up like the guest room, and I'll leave like little treats. I'll buy their favorite snacks. I go all out. I create a whole itinerary for everywhere that I want to take them. It brings me so much joy.
Mhm.
There was a time in my life where I was expected to cook, clean, tend to people because it was supposed to be my job as a woman.
Mhm.
And it fucked me up so much that for several months after I got out of that toxic situation, I couldn't be that person
Mhm.
because everything felt like, oh, it's just because I'm a woman. It's just because I'm a woman. I had to get back to my roots. And now I thrive with that. And my parents raised us that way. And I'll give credit to both my parents. But I will like to give a special mention to my father because he is the first feminist man that I know.
Mhm.
And he doesn't even know what that word means. He has no idea what that word means. He doesn't even understand the concept, right? And he was never raised with that mentality. His childhood was very toxic, very traumatic. And he grew up around the most toxic men like you would not believe. Like the stories I hear from his childhood, it shakes me to my core. What he did see was the women in his family suffering from a very young age. And so they would call him in Gujarati, Malik Bani Dikri, meaning you are your mother's daughter,
Mhm.
as an insult, right? Because he would get up in the morning and help his mother with all of her chores. Anything and everything he could take on himself from like a super young age, he would do it. And it's all because he was like, why? What do you mean? We all live in the same house. Why are the women doing all the labor? Right? And that's just how his brain worked.
Mhm.
To the point where he grew up when he married my mother, his mentality was, I have promised someone I'm going to take care of their daughter. He understood that in the 90s, that was his responsibility, right? He didn't have an education, a formal education. His wife didn't have a formal education, but he knew he had more privilege. He knew he could go out there and be relatively safe while he's earning money, whereas she could not.
Mhm.
And she had to take care of the house. But at the same time, everything was just like, no, I promised someone I would take care of their daughter, and that is my partner. And my partner will be respected in this home. My partner will have dignity in this home. And since the beginning of their marriage, he's always done equal labor in the house.
Mhm.
So, like, even though they both, for years they worked shifts, alternate shifts. So, mom would wake up in the morning, 5 in the morning, go to the store. Dad would wake up a little bit later, have breakfast, pack his lunch, go to the store, and then she'd leave. And then, she'd come home, she'd take the second shift, right? Cooking, cleaning, all of that. And they worked like that for years to where their partner would not be awake when they woke up or when they went to bed. And that's hard to maintain in a marriage
Mhm.
with kids and responsibilities and just everything looming above you at all times, including immigration costs, God forbid. And then on this one Sunday they have off, his whole thing is, You do the second shift the whole week. You're going to sit right here and you're not going to move a muscle. And I'm going to do everything, all the cooking, the cleaning, the washing, laundry, everything that needs to be done. I got it. If at all possible, I do miss the fresh breakfast that you make because I love it so much.
Mhm.
If we can make that together, that would be great because I want to sit and have breakfast with you. And I love the way you make this thing. And then you sit your ass down, right?
Mhm.
And that's how he's treated her his whole life. And even his children. All of us have been taught, you take care of your guests, you take care of your people, you do whatever you can to always share the load, right? No one is above the other. If I'm the person who's, let's say, like making parathas or like frying up the noodles so it's nice and fresh, I'll be like, okay, go sit and start eating. My father will refuse to eat one bite until I have sat down.
Mhm.
He's like, the women in my family will not be standing in the kitchen over the stove while I eat. That's not a thing. We don't do that. When I got my first nursing job, he picked me up from shift, and I had never worked a 12-hour shift before. My legs were aching. He sat me down, and mind you, for years, I would wait for him at night after he came home from his shift at like 11 p.m. And I would warm up his food, and I would have his plate, his fork, his knife, his water, everything ready to go. Not because I'm the daughter and it's my job to cater to him, but that's my father and I love him. And he is exhausted after a 15-hour shift and he's aging. And I'm going to do whatever I can. The day he picked me up from the hospital to bring me back home, I entered the house, he sat me down, and I will never forget this. He took a stool and he put it in front of me and he propped my feet up. And he said, hold on. And then he went and he warmed up my food and he set it up on a tray. My food, my fork, my napkin, my water. I was like, what are you doing? I can take my own food. And he said, no, you just started your first job. You've been taking care of me, and now I get to do this for you. So, like, that mentality that I was raised with, it changed the way my brain saw all of this. So, my whole life, when I have been this person who gets elated to have guests over, who gets so much joy and pride out of taking care of guests and showing people around and making sure they make memories while they're here, I get so much joy out of it. It's because I've seen my parents do it, just like you said, where you're like, they might not have much, but they're going to take care of people and they're going to take care of their guests. And that's exactly what my parents would do. And I've seen them doing that their whole lives. Like when whoever's supposed to come over, their favorite things are getting cooked. And we're all making sure that we talk about things that would make them laugh, stories that they would enjoy. We are catering to the guests. And that's an experience for us as a family. And that has carried over. But again, only because of the home that I was raised in and the positive aspects of our brown culture that was ingrained in me. But the moment that took that flip side of do it because you're a woman,
Mhm.
everything inside of me, I still did it because it was just like, how could you not? But everything inside of me kind of shut down. And there was so much anger and there was so much frustration. And I just felt like, why can't they see? Why can't they see that this is so wrong? To have that kind of expectation and then just it's so normalized. And so I would still do the cooking and the cleaning and all of that, but no matter how hard I tried, and I tried really hard, I couldn't put love in it. I couldn't put joy in it,
Mhm.
you know. And it messed with me, and I never thought I would ever be that person. But for that year and a half period, I turned into that person and I was unrecognizable. I didn't know who I was, and that shit really fucks with me. But yeah, like that whole aspect of that household responsibility, whether it's, the whole guest thing or just cooking and cleaning within the home, the responsibilities, like you mentioned, like post relationship, right?
Mhm.
Plays right into that because women are expected to do not just the unpaid labor, but also the emotional labor, right? Which again, a disservice to our men, our little boys, that we don't teach them regulation. Not that our women and our girls are taught that anyway, but at least even if it's through toxicity and conditioning, we become aware of empathy. We become empathetic, people pleasers, but empathetic.
Mhm.
While being people pleasers, we do learn about empathy, right? But our boys and men don't. Like my father is, everything that I've just said about him so far, when it comes to empathy, when it comes to emotional regulation, it's still the women in his life who are doing this.
Yeah.
Like I will sit him down and I'll be like, we got to talk about this, right? And I turn into the family therapist. It is what it is. I it is labor, but there's reception towards it, which for me is a win. Could it be better? Absolutely. But again, like that piece of women doing the household labor unequally, doing the emotional labor unequally, and then being expected to just kind of come through on everything otherwise as well. It is freaking exhausting. And the thing you talked about earlier, where you said, some women are like, if I'm going to be doing all of this, the least you can do is pay for it. And I agree with you, where it's like to each their own. And if that's what you want for your life, and you have a partner who's like, yeah, I'm down for that. You do all of this and I'll pay for everything. And you're both actually doing it out of choice. That's feminism, right?
Yeah.
Choice. If it's choice, the problem is when people start, again, putting their beliefs onto other people. And that's where all these issues occur. And then I think it's so important for people to get to know themselves truly before they make these kinds of decisions of getting into marriages with this kind of unequal labor distribution and responsibility distribution. Except in our culture, women are told to be married young, right? The moment you hit 25, bam, right? They'll get you married to someone who's 10 years older than you. Totally fine. But it's like, oh, your expiration date. And it's like, no, you just want them to get married before they have a chance to truly understand, what is it that I want? What does it feel like to be my own person? What does it feel like to walk in this world knowing that I hold some kind of security with my financial freedom, with my opportunities for education, right? Where I get to think for myself, get to make decisions for myself. But a lot of women are married young and they don't get to do that. And they get into these dynamics going, yeah, absolutely. The whole like trad wife concept. And then they're like, wait a minute. You mean I'm completely dependent on this person? And if they were to leave me, I have nothing to show for it? Wild to me.
Yeah. That was a wild ride.
Yeah, it was. I told you, I tell stories. So you either
Right.
like it or you don't.
Also, good luck to future people who date you when your dad treated you like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
You know what?
got
Yes.
some-
You know what? Yes. Because
Yeah.
that's the standard.
No, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
the damn standard.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to say is that there's a lot of ways to perceive your story, right? First, with adoration for your father, like, what an amazing person. And then there will be like spectrums of men who treat and understand that differently. There will be people who are going to be like, to demean that would be like, I can never live up to that. To like, they probably don't want to. And they'll treat that in a negative way, right? And that's what you would expect from most men. But then there's this notion of like, when I was hearing this story, how I was feeling was that, and that's the kind of man that I would strive to be. Like, at some point in my life, if my daughter is in public speaking about me like this, that is an insane privilege. Like, that right there is like makes your life half worth it. Like, that's what you really live for, right? So, but I feel like a lot of men wouldn't feel like that. They would just simply make it about themselves. Like, even if you do make it about yourself, like, there's a lot of positives to take from that, right? Like, to have, like, to be able to raise your daughter in a way where they're proud of you is probably one of the biggest achievements you can have in your life. For your wife to speak about you like that, for your son to speak about you like that, for your parents to speak about you like that, right? These are things that I feel like men a lot of times don't simply take into account. And that has a lot to do with patriarchy and how they view their responsibilities as a man. And I feel like patriarchy really tells them that your worth is based off of what you bring to the table rather than how you make the people closest to you feel. And I feel like, these you hear these conversations from nurses who work in like a late stage patient care. They'll tell you that every person that they've seen pass away on their deathbed, they have never spoken about um, their worth in terms of how much money they made or like what they've built or whatever.
Mm.
Every single person on their deathbed speaks about relationships,
Mm.
speaks about who they miss, who they wish were here, the mistakes that they've made in terms of those relationships. Nobody ever says, "Oh my God, if I just bought that house when I was 20,"
Yeah.
because they're not leaving with that when they're
Mhm.
leaving this world, right?
Yeah.
They're leaving with the feelings that they get from close relationships, and I feel like for a lot of men, we really forget that that's where our priorities should be, and that should be something that we should be striving towards. Like I really think that's the priority. Like that is the ideal person that you would want to be, and that is an extension of how you should treat
Mhm.
not just women in your life but like
Yeah.
men too, because like your son would grow up looking at you as a role model and treating other people within their lives the same way. And that, what a privilege to raise people like that and have people around you
Yeah.
that support you like that, because like nobody's going to feel bad about supporting this person through whatever they're going through. So you have a support system because you were a good human being. And I think that's what people forget, that introspectively, when you're really worrying about yourself, you're not being able to create that space for other people to be there for you. So I mean, if you're so good at being by yourself, you would probably like, people will just be like, hey, you can take care of yourself when you're in a bad spot as well, right? And that's only fair. So I think that's really something that, in terms of like, I think that's ingrained in women, but for men, if you haven't learned it, I think it's high time we do learn that that's the kind of person that we should strive to be. And unfortunately, for a lot of men, these conversations will come from women, friends, partners, and it shouldn't be the case, which is why more men should be talking about this, so that there are more male to male spaces, and so that females don't have to take the burden of teaching men how to be better men, which is insane. So yeah, I think.
I think men also have the responsibility to just seek therapy. Like I think
Yeah.
instead of relying on friends or family or
Yeah.
someone else in the community, just like actually realize that you do. I'm not saying you might, or I'm saying you do need therapy, but also in the process to not judge yourself, because I don't think anyone's perfect, and I think men have a real big tendency to want perfection from themselves when it comes to a lot in life, whether it be dating, whether it be their financial status, whether it be they they think that their value is based on external factors in their life and how well those factors are going. And for a man to want to get to a point where he realizes that relationships are more important than everything else requires so much more getting past all the superficial shit that we've been told actually matters in life. That requires accountability more than anything, because our upbringing matters. The way that we've been brought up, the way experiences that we've had, no one's denying that. Some people have had very unfortunate experiences and upbringings, but at a certain point, accountability is key, because self awareness, accountability, and being able to go, I'm not the person I want to be, but I want to be better, is your responsibility to take that and kind of run with it. And so, thinking about where people are on their deathbed and being like, oh man, I wish I had done this, I wish I had done that, is because they've finally been forced to look past everything that they've been told is important in life. And life itself has been like, psh, you get it now? But hopefully we don't have to get to that point for men to be able to realize, like, yo, like, put some work in for yourself.
Absolutely.
Without having to rely on those people around you. Seek professional help.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's that emotional labor. Like, women in the dating space are really exhausted of being their partner's therapist and life coach. Right? And that's not to say that women don't want to be there for their partner and create a safe space. Like, absolutely we do. 100%. And men don't realize, men who are not in tune with their emotions and don't go, hey, I want to take personal ownership of what's going on here and what's going on here. They don't realize that that also limits how deeply we connect with them,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you can be a provider, a protector, all of that, and we can have great chemistry and everything, but if women are not able to feel your presence in the relationship mentally and emotionally, because you yourself are not in touch with your emotions, that's a huge gap. That's a huge need in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And women are in this space, like in today's day and age, where we can't simply go, oh, but you know how men are. That's just men. That used to be a thing. That
Yeah,
used to be a thing, right? All
men
these
will be
years,
men.
men will be men, like perpetrated by like those 2000s and 90s rom-coms and everything. Like, you know how boys are, right?
Yeah,
Like, oh, I can't expect him to understand
and the
that, or
Bacardi ads.
all of it. All of it, right? And it's like now women are like, no, actually, that is a huge part of the relationship. And if you can't meet me where I'm at mentally and emotionally, all of this is for nothing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So because we do it for everyone in our lives, right? Like our friends, our family, we're more than happy to be that safe space for our partners. It's when the partners don't go beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're coming to me for everything when it's emotional regulation, whether it's understanding your emotions, talking about it, and be like, hey babe, like I need your perspective on this. Am I in my head about this? That's different. But if you can't self-regulate ever,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to be your punching bag or your stress ball, your calm button, that's a problem. That is a huge problem,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I have to be the one to tell you to get your shit together all the time, that's a problem. If you're not getting your shit together until you're with a woman,
Mm-hmm.
and now you're suddenly like, oh, I gotta get my shit together,
Mm-hmm.
that's a problem, right? I once dated a person who did not do shit about taking care of themselves mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, financially, their health, anything, until they got into a relationship with me and they realized, oh, I gotta step it up.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll do it, but it's gonna take me a few years. And I'm like, that's wonderful for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. And I want you to do that because you do deserve a life in which you are truly happy and healthy and it
Mm-hmm.
brings you joy. But that's not where I'm at right now. I'm
Mm-hmm.
at a space in my life where I'm dating to marry. I'm at a space in my life where I'm dating to meet someone that I can build with, someone who takes equal responsibility, because it's like anything I'm asking to be put on the table, I'm bringing to the table,
Yep.
right? So if I am going above and beyond everything that's been put on me simply for existing as a woman, and then on top of that, life problems that everyone goes through, right? All the twists and turns. You know how shitty life's been for me, back to back to back, right? So if I'm taking care of all of that and I'm focusing, doing my best to focus on my mental health, physical health, spiritual health, financial health, everything, and I'm trying to find joy in my life, find peace in my life, go to therapy, work with a financial advisor to understand finances, because what the hell is an RRSP? Why are you making me make these decisions? Right? If I'm doing all of this and investing in my friends and my family and making sure people feel loved and connected and letting them be there for me, learning my lessons in therapy, crying hard in those sessions and being like, oh man, I didn't know I was this fucked up. This is great. So much to work with. Right? If I'm doing all of this, I expect my man to also be doing all of this. I
Yeah.
expect my man to also say, I am taking personal accountability because I want better for me. I don't want you to do things to get me or to keep me. I want you to do things because you love yourself and you want a good life for yourself and you would
Mm-hmm.
like to continue building on that life with a potential partner. If I can't have that, what that turns me into is your life coach and your therapist, and I did not sign up for that job. I have enough to do.
Right. I feel like I have had a notion of a certain, like, I would say what I didn't think was entitlement, but probably was, where I would think of the 50-50 argument,
Mm.
not in the way that most men use it, but in a way that, I wanted to get an indication of independence from the person. But my approach for that, I think I would say there's been a lot of influence on that notion from this conversation. And I feel that a reason for that is for me to realize, like, obviously I do understand what it takes for a woman to be in the dating market, but to understand everything that goes behind being a woman in general, that does account for something, even within the dating space or in any other space. Yeah, I think my perspective is still building in terms of the finances within the dating space, because I feel like I have my own perspective on finances within relationships, and I think I'm okay with where they are. But in terms of the dating space, I think they're still evolving in a way where slowly every day I realize newer things, newer aspects to things. And I think the expectation of 50-50 carries a lot of misogynistic traits or like patriarchal traits within that notion, unless it is communicated within that date, within those people of why and how they're doing this. Yeah, I think that should never be brought up to begin with. My initial argument was that in terms of the post relationship thing, if the expected burden on women is considered norm, that in and of itself is an extension of patriarchy, right? So, us telling women that this is what you're expected to do, therefore men should be paying, is already giving men a space to be like, as you said, that's all I have to do.
Yep.
Like, I just get to pay and then treat the woman however,
Yeah.
and then she'll do everything. That's very reductive, like in a sense that you just wipe your hands off all responsibility and be like, hey, I'm paying for shit, so like just there's the kitchen. But that's not how it should be. And I think that's essentially that should be the focus of the conversations within the dating space, instead of you know it being a sign of security, it being a space of like all of these things that I feel like even women say. And I feel like that has a lot to do with societal patriarchal norms as well. And that kind of exacerbates the already existing patriarchal norms of like, I think it should be about choice and not coercion or like pushing on ideas on women, even if it's like, especially if it's a cultural norm and like the status quo, because clearly the status quo isn't working for anybody. So some's got to change. So I feel that's probably something that's building, in my opinion, as I have more conversations.
Oh, that's why I define feminism as like treating human beings as human beings, because even with the awareness of like, we are aware of the patriarchy, we are aware of societal norms, we are aware of gender roles, we are aware of all these things and how they affect. But at the end of the day, someone could be aware of it and still use it to their advantage. Like if a guy is just like, oh yeah, I will pay because you have to go through all of these things, but since I'm paying, you will continue going through all of these things. Is being aware of the inequalities but not really caring about the inequalities. It's more like, okay, but like, are you treating the other person as a human being, or are you just treating them as a commodity now? And your possession potentially. And so I think at the end of the day, it's just like, y'all, like, that's the thing, that like, how do we treat each other like this? We're freaking human beings. Like, why is it so complicated? And I think that like, that's what at the end of the day, I'm just like, it doesn't matter. And all of this is so experiential between the two people that are in a relationship. So at the end of the day, whoever you're dating, whoever you're in a relationship with, just talk to them, like just communicate, just, and like be open and be honest. And the people that you will end up, if you get any pushback or disrespect from communicating and being honest, you don't want to be with that person.
Facts.
Right? So like, you get to weed that out pretty quickly. One question I want to pose both of you though, based on this whole like first date paying situation, right? We talked about who pays, but what is the date? Because I'll pay, but there was a good 6-7 months that I was going on first dates and they were dinners, and my bank account was like, hello sir, I'm sorry, what's happening here? And I had to be like, oh, okay, yeah, like, because then I had to just like, I still want to pay, but then there's also, I know that there's a notion that like, okay, if it's a coffee date, which I prefer, right? I prefer getting a coffee, going on a walk, because I'm trying to get to know you. And if this ends up being a good connection, then I will still potentially invest in you financially, whatever, emotionally, all that, moving forward. But I know that women also have this notion that like, ugh, coffee date on a first date, like I'm not worth that much to you or whatever else. That like thing of like I am entitled to a good first date because of what I'm providing and how I,
Mhm.
um, and that has been like a thing for me to be like, I'm trying to figure out how I feel about it. I'll still pay regardless, but
Yeah.
usually if I've gotten, there was one date that I went on that she wanted to go to omakase on a first date, and I was
Mhm.
just like, okay, all right. And it was an experience, and so I was just like, I'm always down for an experience. But she was also aware enough to be like, we're gonna split this. Like, it's not gonna be a, you're not gonna pay for everything. But it was one of those situations where I was just like, oof, like this could have gone if she wasn't
Mm,
as aware, if she wasn't as like
mm.
cognizant of, and empathetic towards my being there, this could have been this could have hurt. And we
Yeah.
didn't go it didn't go anywhere. We went on 2 dates and they were great, but like it didn't go anywhere, right?
Mhm.
And so this is my question, is the fact that like we have so many first dates that just don't go anywhere, and that would potentially put a dent in the bank account depending on what you're doing, where you're at, if you're in LA versus if you're in Iowa, So
Yeah.
like, long-winded question.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on that?
I can answer.
Go ahead.
I mean, in my opinion, that's the cost of putting yourself out there. Like you're putting yourself in the space to gain something from this, right? In a sense of like you are looking for some form of relationship, something to get out of it. So I do see the idea of investing it. I mean, see, my take on this is very different in the sense that I personally am not a fan of the modern dating culture in general. I don't like the idea of dating to begin with because I feel like some of the best relationships that I've been in have developed organically or developed through friendships or like just getting to know the person from mutual interests or shared spaces, right?
Must be nice
Or
for all
the
those that need
girl,
to be on an app.
Ugh,
the girl crushing on you first.
sorry, what?
The girl's crushing on you
I have no
first.
idea what she's talking about, but uh, yeah, so those have been the situations. So they've always ended up like I would say better than individual dates that I've been in. I don't think any individual date that I've been on has ever gone anywhere. But see, that's an interesting thing because I am now at a space where I'm no longer in shared spaces or in third spaces. Right now, I don't have the first and second space right now. So everything else is my third space. And I feel like there's not enough of those third spaces for me to meet people. So right now I understand the ideology or value of dating, and then yeah, it can take a dent on your wallet in a sense. But I don't know if thinking about that specifically in terms of finances is the right way to go about it, in my opinion. I feel like I naturally have some form of hesitation. I'm not sure where that comes from, but I do feel that there could be a lot of things where I feel this hesitation because of. To put it vaguely, is for me, if you're looking at this to you're approaching this for it to go somewhere, I'm not sure initially thinking about how much it is affecting you financially. Maybe like a right approach. You could change your approach to dating if it is hurting you financially, right? That's what I think. Like, okay, maybe dinners are not the best way now. Like I've tried 7 dinners in the last 2 months. They haven't worked out. So maybe I'll give something else a try, right? Like, I mean,
So
for
that's, yeah,
adults, like, I don't know, spaces, third spaces like cooking classes, dance classes,
Experiences.
experiences, right? You get to meet people from there, and then you get to gauge your first date gauge before you actually go on the first date. You know what I mean?
sure. And I guess I was talking more from like the modern perspective of the
Yeah,
fact that
you.
the third space dates are ideal. That's like when you
Right.
meet someone out in the wild and you're
Yeah.
just like, oh, this is a thing still. Cool. A lot of it tends to be through apps, right? Like a lot of it
Yeah.
tends to be through like you just communicate electronically
Mm.
and then you go on this first
Right.
date and you
Yeah.
don't really know each other or how it's going to be when you first connect. And it's just like, all right, where do we go from here? So my take is like, yes, I'm investing, right? But we're both investing in this. Like
Right.
if we both decide that we're both going on this date, then we're both investing in it. And if the end game is to be able to see if we're compatible, and the end game is to be able to get to know each other and have a good time together, it doesn't necessarily, I'm not penny pinching in the sense that like it's not like I'm being like, oh, I'm putting this much down on one date.
Mhm.
It's just that now I've been on 7 first dates, and that cumulative thing,
It adds up.
it adds up.
Yeah.
And so it's not about each individual person that I'm investing in. It's the dating experience overall for me that I'm investing in.
Mm.
And so then what do I do? Because finances are still important.
Mhm.
What do I do for myself to be able to go, okay, how do I change my dating experience so that it's like
I
more
think we've
beneficial?
kind of answered that a little bit from in bits and pieces through other conversations. Just communicate. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I've been on a bunch. Like every person that you're speaking to, I've been on a bunch of first dates. I don't know where this is going. I want to get to know you better. This is where I'm at. I want to go on a coffee date, get to know you better, and then see where it goes. Are you down for that? Think a bit of clear communication, and like if it's the kind of person that you want to end up with, they will probably take that positively. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, but I don't know if I'd be inclined to just be like, hey, I've been on a bunch of first
Yeah,
dates. And
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I would think that like for me, I would just, if the notion is this person values my company based on how much money I'm paying out for them
Mhm.
in a dinner setting or
Yeah.
whatever. Some people are just like, it has to be a certain type of restaurant for
Mm.
me to take you out on. If I gauge that even prior to me taking you out, it's probably not
There you
gonna
go.
work.
Exactly.
You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But it is just it's something that I've like clocked for myself where I'm just like, okay, I don't want them to feel like I don't want to invest in them and that I'm
Yeah.
being a cheapskate or whatever else. But the reality is, yeah, we're all dating. I mean, I'm not gonna say we're all. Sorry, I am also dating with intention, right?
Mm.
But that doesn't mean that that is going to be successful anytime soon.
Right.
And so, for my own sake, when I do then find someone that I do want to have a second date with and invest in further, then I will pay on the second date as well, right?
Mhm.
Because now I'm like, okay, now I've gotten to know you a little bit. I see that we have a connection and I want this to go somewhere. I want to keep getting to know you. Then I'll be like, all right, cool. Let me like take you out again. And this time I will treat you and I will like show you more about what I want to be able to do and experience with you.
Mhm.
And so, um, yeah.
I have some thoughts.
Oh no, really?
Yeah, I know,
Crazy.
right? Surprise, surprise. So one, I'm so glad you clarified that the investment is in the dating experience, and not like I'm investing in this woman financially, because I was like, it's problematic.
No, yeah.
So when you first said that word, I was like, huh? But so one, I'm so glad you clarified that. Two, great points. When women are talking about, I'm not going on a coffee and walk date with you, right? Again, we look at investment in different forms.
Mhm.
Investment of finances for sure, because dating can get so expensive and that shit adds up. And it's also the investment of time and investment of self, right? And I don't think there's like a, well, men want it this way, women want it this way. What's the really right answer? We've all been thrown into this like dating world, in this phase of dating apps and dating world and meeting strangers with no rules. Is the wild wild west out there, right? So
Mhm.
when these apps first came on, there were no rules of, like, yeah, I mean, if it's the app, like, oh, on Bumble, like, women message first or whatever, right? Besides that, there were no rules of like what's a first date supposed to be like with like, someone. Like, it used to be dinner and a movie, right? For the longest time it used to be dinner and a movie. We don't live in a world where you can afford like multiple dinners and movies multiple times a month. That's just not a reality anymore. I think people are so jaded from the dating experience from the app itself because of terrible experiences that they've had or just not getting any luck. Like you and I were talking earlier, how like women get on a dating app and just are swarmed with likes,
Mhm.
right? Men get on the dating app and they're just like, come on, right? Like vetting each other's profiles to be like, this is this not a good profile? Like, what am I missing here, right? Like,
Yeah.
I've had male friends do that with me, right? And so it's the dynamic is so different, right? And then there's people who are like, look, I don't want to do small talk. I don't want to be your pen pal. You hear that a lot on dating apps and on conversations with people you meet on there. I don't want to be your pen pal. I don't want to be your texting buddy. I don't want let's just meet. Let's just go for it. Well, if you go let's just meet and that's where I'll get to know you, it makes sense for you to be like coffee and a walk. Right? Because like, financially, I can't afford with the amount of people that I'm going on a let's just meet and that I'll get to know you there. Right? Makes sense financially. But for women to keep going on these coffee and walk dates, I'm just like, what are you doing with my time right now? Right? So I think what's important is discernment, right? If we are not taking the time to truly talk to that person, not just texting, getting on a phone call, getting on FaceTime, really seeing, do we have chemistry? Do we have banter? Do we have a connection? Are there values that match at the core? Are there things that I really want to talk to about this person? I want their opinion. I want their perspective. Or, I just want to share about my day with them. I just want to open up to them. Like all of these things. Like, do you feel that connection building? Do you feel like there's something there? I really feel like I can talk to this person. And then actually opening up about some things. Not saying throw all your flags out there and be like, this is me, take it or leave it. But actually start, opening up and being vulnerable about things at the level at which you are comfortable. Engage and see. And then if it gets to that point, go for a nice meal. And I think it's important to, again, keep the financial situation in mind. I've dated men who are, like a gentleman I dated, he was not in the best space financially. Gem of a person, heart of gold, but just could not financially commit. I don't care about that, right? We will go have pani puri, and we did. And it was amazing, right? But again, the man focused on my likes. It's the thoughtfulness. Like, I'm not taking you to omakase, but I'm not taking you to coffee and a walk. I've gotten to know you enough to be like, I really want to like meet this person. I really want to feel a connection with this person. And I remember she likes this kind of food and I can afford it. So it's a combination of me being thoughtful, me listening, and me being able to take you someplace where I know I'll be able to pay the bill. And me having the cognizance of knowing I know what situation he's in, still going to offer to pay or at least split the bill if he insists, but knowing that he is doing the best he can with what he has and being mindful of his finances and still showing me that he's thoughtful. Boom. Right. And then again, having those conversations, not in terms of maybe like, hey, I've been on too many first dates, let's just do coffee and a walk, but at least being in the space of, hey, like, I've talked to you enough, I've opened up to you enough to where I can share with you, listen, I'm working on some things and here's where I'm at financially. It's the most I can tell you at the moment. But I would still like to date you. I would still like to have experiences with you. And experiences are what you make of it, right? Dating is, not just like we said, dinner, 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 right? Dating is also so much more than that. And I think a lot of men don't understand that. Like, women will create those experiences for each other.
Yeah.
We'll do picnics, we'll do sip and paints, we'll do, we'll make brunch at home. Like, we will go buy freaking paint supplies from Dollar Tree and sit down and make snacks and make mocktails or cocktails, and we'll have a grand old time. That's a fucking experience. That's a date, bro.
Yeah.
That's a date.
I want to go on those.
I'm telling you, men are missing out because women are awesome.
More bro dates.
More bro dates.
Yeah.
But that's where I think, like, I fully agreed with you. It gets so expensive. And it's so important to communicate and be transparent and be like, it is what it is. But the level at which you do it. Yeah. Right? At which point do you invest enough in a person emotionally to be like, this is a person I want to have experiences with at the level that I'm financially at right now. And I'm going to be open and honest with them about it. And if they feel that connection too, they will understand and respect this.
Yeah. I think kind of overall to conclude, there's two takeaways for me. One, more mandem talks. Like, just talk to people. Like, in general, just communicate. I think men, women, whoever, like, I think men should be communicating with potential partners, dates, other men, and just in general, because there's a lot that men have to communicate. So I think that's my biggest takeaway from this is to communicate, and that extends to my second thing that I would take away, that it's not that deep, but for men, like in the sense of like, I feel like um, for men it's as simple as just being able to communicate. It's as simple as asking a couple of questions, being a little introspective of like who you really are, and trying to figure out what the other person wants, where they're at, which again goes back into just asking more questions and having a little more open communication. And that only happens when you're practicing that in your personal lives with the people around you, with the women around you, with especially the men around you. And instead of them being yes men and validating all your bullshit, they actually call you out on things that you should improve on. And I think that's where the accountability bit comes in, and that's why we're probably having these conversations. So yeah, I mean, I guess a little bit of mindfulness on the communication part really goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's your takeaway, would you say?
I think you nailed it. I think communication is so key. I will keep saying that till the very end. I think communication is key. I think for me, the word that is most important in everyday life is empathy. Just being able to kind of show up in a way that you realize you're not the end all be all, and that
Mm,
the baseline that I want from anybody, friendship, relationship, romantic, platonic, is consideration. The
yeah.
fact that, do you understand that
Yeah.
all the words you say, every action that you take has an impact on everybody around you,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
how it impacts everybody around you,
Yeah.
and to be able to just live with consideration for your fellow human beings in whatever capacity that may be. And I think we can extend that to men in any situation, but I think empathy is so interesting because it can be taught, because obviously I think women carry it more than men do.
Mhm.
But when can it be taught? Like, is it
Mm.
a thing that we need to be able to teach kids from the get, or can men
Ideally.
in their adulthood, young adulthood, whatever, realize, wait a minute, I need to learn more about this empathy thing and adopt it? Because I think obviously with like anything, it's harder to learn as you grow older.
Mhm.
But I think that accountability, to be able to be just like, all right, let me just sit for a second and consider what this other person might be going through or feeling or
Right.
whatever else.
Mm.
So yeah, so for me, it's communication and empathy that we need to just like keep in mind, essentially.
Yeah. Aneesa?
I think with today's conversations, I've learned that all of us, men and women, put on a lot of armor
Mm.
in different ways. Our armor looks different, it weighs differently, and we put it on and take it off at different times. And I think the whole exercise needs to be of getting to a point where we walk towards each other in unison enough to be able to take off our armors at the same time and put them down.
Okay.
And I think that's what's important to me. And again, having these conversations, listening to each other's perspectives,
Mhm.
and kind of offering your own is the first step in that. The empathy, the open communication, especially the listening,
Mhm.
the thoughtfulness, the consideration. These are skills that everybody should learn, everybody should know, ideally from a very young age.
Yeah.
But yeah, over the years, you're going to end up putting on a lot of armor based on whatever kind of experiences you have. And I think as an adult, the whole exercise is to put the armor down.
So just comes down to empathy, communication, and vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
So like, yeah.
I want to work towards a society where man versus bear is man at
Yo,
some-
Yeah,
yes.
at
Yes.
some point. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
100%.
We'll
That'd be
see
great.
when we get there, but at
Yeah,
some
yeah,
point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Got you.
Thanks, guys. This is great.
Thanks, Roham.
You're welcome.
I really don't want to get up right now because I feel like I'm gonna fall over because my
Yeah.
entire leg is asleep.
Yeah.
I want to get up because I am starving and have been so for an hour, and it's Kacchi time.
Yes, let's go.
Let's go.